have some bittersweet news to share with all the General Hospital fans out there who have been following this intense ride. It appears that actor Ryan Pavey has officially said his goodbyes to the show, and by extension to all of us who have been watching his every move. This means that, at least for the foreseeable future, we are not going to see Cassius Pavey, the man we so desperately hoped was a miraculously resurrected Nathan West, walking the streets of Port Charles. If you ask me, this is a very tough pill to swallow, especially given the emotional investment we all placed in his return. But something about that moment stayed with me. I couldn't stop thinking about the way his exit was framed within the universe of the show. Executive producer Frank Valentini had previously mentioned that Pavey's return was always designed as a short-term storyline, a brief spark to ignite a much larger fire. So, his departure was baked into the narrative from the very beginning. Yet, the way Cassius met his supposed end feels entirely too convenient, almost as if it was written by someone trying to cover their tracks. The World Security Bureau, with the surprising help of Jocelyn Jacks, neatly pinned all of the deceased Ross Cullum's heinous crimes on Cassius, who is now presumed dead by everyone in town. Cassius became the perfect scapegoat for an agency desperate to hide its own rot. At first, it didn't seem important. It just looked like a tragic, fitting end to a tragic imposter who had lied to everyone, including Lulu Spencer, who was left feeling utterly violated by his deception. It seemed like the natural conclusion for a man who took massive risks just to have one final, heartbreaking goodbye with little James West at the batting cages before Cody Bell had to explain the devastating truth of the twin swap. But when you look closer at the quiet corners of this narrative, the absolute neatness of his off-screen death starts to feel like a carefully constructed illusion meant to distract us from the truth. The more I think about it, the more I realize that the official story being sold to the residents of Port Charles is full of glaring holes. Let us follow the breadcrumbs that have been quietly dropped along the way. We actually know, based on the hidden details of this storyline, that Cassius Pavey is alive. The Brain Trust at the World Security Bureau, specifically the enigmatic and highly manipulative director known only as Z, secretly recruited the presumed dead Cassius to work for him. Why would the head of an international intelligence agency fake the death of a fugitive imposter? Because Cassius simply knows too much. He knows the intimate, dangerous details of Ross Cullum's cold fusion prototype. He knows the dirty tricks the WSB played on Cesar Faison in the past. He knows that Cullum was the one who murdered Marco Rios, a secret Jocelyn is currently helping to cover up. Z would never, ever allow a man with that kind of leverage to simply walk free or stand trial in a public courtroom. Instead, Cassius is undoubtedly being held at a highly classified WSB black site, monitored around the clock and forced into compliance as a ghost operative. And this is where the pieces start to shift and align in my mind. Because Cassius isn't the only Port Charles resident currently trapped in the WSB's shadow network. We have to remember how Jason Morgan fits into this massive puzzle. Jason took the fall for Rocco Falconeri. When Rocco shot Ross Cullum to save Jason's life, Jason sacrificed his own freedom to protect Dante and Lulu's son. As a result, Jason was hauled off to a secret WSB location. We know Jason is making his highly anticipated return to Port Charles on July 13 for the monumental 16,000th episode, alongside a mysterious new arrival named Tristan Roberts. But how does Jason get from a classified, off-the-books black site back to the docks of his hometown? I keep coming back to the geography of these secrets. We have two men, both deeply entangled in the exact same massive conspiracy involving Ross Cullum, and both swallowed up by the exact same shadowy intelligence agency at the exact same time. This is where we have to look past the obvious and examine the shadow beneath the story. The surface narrative tells us a very straightforward tale. Jason Morgan and Valentine Cassadine are being released from custody because Jocelyn Jacks made a secret, highly unethical deal with Z. She traded her silence regarding Cullum's crimes, agreeing to smear the deceased Cassius Pavey's reputation in exchange for their absolute freedom. That is the story everyone will see, and it is the story that will allow Jason to walk back into town. But there is a hidden emotional conflict brewing just beneath that surface, an unseen connection that ties these seemingly disparate lives together in a knot of grief and survival. Think about Liesl Obrecht and Britt Westbourne. Liesl is currently walking around Port Charles, absolutely devastated by the death of Cassius. She compromised her own fierce morals, completed the dangerous cold fusion prototype, and endured terrifying captivity at Windermere alongside Jocelyn, all to keep her son safe from Cullum's wrath. Now, she believes her boy is dead, his reputation forever ruined to protect the very agency that destroyed their lives. And Britt is going through an unimaginable psychological roller coaster. She just survived a harrowing ordeal on the run in Tortola with Rocco. She narrowly escaped being injected with poison vials sent by Ross Cullum. And she just discovered that her terminal Huntington's disease diagnosis was a cruel, fabricated lie orchestrated by Cullum and Jen Sidwell. Britt has her whole life ahead of her now. She will live much longer than she ever expected. But she is forced to start this new chapter while mourning the brother she just lost. In the cold, calculating eyes of Jason Morgan, Cassius Phazon is a liability, a dangerous imposter, and an enemy of the people he cares about. But to Liesl and Britt, Cassius's family, he is blood. And if there is one fundamental truth about Jason Morgan, it is that he knows a thing or two about the extreme lengths a person will go to for the people they love. Maybe there is another layer here that we haven't fully considered. It's possible that Jason's time in WSB custody won't just be an off-screen waiting room where he sits quietly until Jocelyn's deal processes his paperwork. What if, during his confinement at that undisclosed, highly secure location, Jason crosses paths with the ghost of Port Charles? What if Jason, with his sharp instincts and observant nature, discovers that Cassius Phazon is very much alive, held in a neighboring interrogation cell, or working under extreme duress in the very same facility? I keep wondering whether this accidental discovery is the true catalyst for Jason's upcoming storyline. Jason has absolutely no love for Cassius. In fact, Jason would probably be perfectly happy to leave the lying imposter to rot in a WSB dungeon for the rest of his natural life. But Jason's connection to Britt Westbourne changes the entire calculus of this situation. We all remember the profound, undeniable bond that Jason and Britt shared. They were on the run together, they protected each other when no one else would, and Jason repeatedly put his own life on the line to keep Britt safe from the elements and their enemies. Their relationship was built on a solid foundation of mutual survival and a deep, unspoken respect that transcends their current circumstances. Britt is even actively wondering about a potential future with Jason now that she knows she isn't dying. If Jason discovers that Cassius is alive, he might not care about the man himself, but his mind will immediately go to Britt. What if we're missing something crucial about Jason's highly publicized return? What if his return isn't just about walking free and rejoining Sonny Corinthos' organization? In fact, rumors suggest Jason is gaining a new perspective that might lead him to leave the mob entirely. If Jason is stepping away from the mob, he becomes a free agent. If Britt were to somehow learn the truth that her brother is alive but trapped in the iron grip of Z, there is no doubt in my mind that she would refuse to give up on him. And if Britt looks Jason in the eye and asks him to help her rescue Cassius, I firmly believe Jason would accept the mission, no matter how much he despises the man he is saving. To truly understand why Jason would ever consider risking his life for a man like Cassius, we have to look back at the history he shares with Britt. It wasn't just a fleeting romance. It was a partnership forged in the fires of desperation. When Jason was an outlaw, Britt didn't turn her back on him. She used her medical expertise, her cunning, and her sheer force of will to keep him breathing. She saw the man beneath the enforcer exterior, and Jason in turn saw the vulnerable, fiercely loyal woman beneath the tough persona she presented to the world. They saved each other time and time again. That kind of debt is never truly paid off in Jason Morgan's world. He operates on a strict code of honor, a ledger of loyalty, where Britt's name is written in permanent ink. Now that Jason is returning, potentially leaving the violent world of Sonny Corinthos behind, he is searching for a new purpose. What better purpose than to repay the woman who once saved his life by returning the brother she thought she lost forever? The WSB might have endless resources, heavily armed guards, and the backing of global governments, but they have never had to face a fully unchanged Jason Morgan operating on a deeply personal mission. I keep coming back to the image of Jason, standing in the shadows of a WSB black site, realizing that the key to Britt's happiness is locked in the cell right next to his. It is a narrative goldmine just waiting to be excavated. As we inch closer to that July 13 milestone, the atmosphere surrounding these characters is getting noticeably heavier. It doesn't seem accidental that all these volatile elements are converging at the exact same moment. You can almost feel the invisible walls closing in on Port Charles. Z truly thinks he has won the ultimate victory. He has secured the cold fusion data. He has the brilliant Cassius Faison as his secret, off-the-books operative, and he has Jocelyn Jax completely under his thumb. He is manipulating Jocelyn into staying with the WSB, elevating her career despite Carly Spencer crying by her hospital bed, begging her daughter to leave the dangerous agency because she cannot bear to lose another child after Morgan. Z is playing a highly dangerous game of international chess, moving human lives around the board with terrifying precision and arrogance. But Z is vastly underestimating the wild cards currently in play. He is underestimating Jason Morgan's lethal efficiency and unwavering loyalty to those he cares about, and he is severely underestimating the fierce, unyielding determination of the Obrecht women. The tension is palpable because a massive collision feels absolutely inevitable. We are looking at the terrifying, thrilling prospect of a secret rescue mission, a covert operation designed to extract a ghost from the clutches of the world's most powerful intelligence agency. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated danger of Jason Morgan willingly going back into the belly of the beast, risking his newly acquired freedom and his life, all to pull off a heist. And not a heist for money or mob territory, but for a man he can barely stand, simply because the woman he once loved asked him to do the impossible. The stakes are astronomical. One wrong move, one tripped alarm, and Jason could find himself locked away in the infamous Steinmauer prison forever. One slip up, and Cassius could be immediately executed by Z to tie up loose ends and maintain the WSB's pristine public image. The darkness of the World Security Bureau is vast, and Jason is walking right along its razor-thin, deadly edge. But even as I map out this intricate web of international espionage, emotional blackmail, and covert rescue missions, something feels profoundly unfinished. I can't shake the feeling that this entire saga with Cassius Faison is just a prelude to something infinitely more profound for the audience. Yes, I want to see a daring rescue led by Jason Morgan. I want to see the emotional, tear-filled reunion between Cassius, Liesel, and Britt. I want to see Jason navigate the complex moral gray area of saving a sworn enemy for the sake of a cherished friend. But above all of that, I keep looking at the empty space left by Ryan Pavey's departure from our screens. What if this goodbye is just a masterful, long-term misdirection by the writers? What if the WSB's secrets go even deeper than cold fusion and double agents? I have to confess, while I would love to see Cassius return from the dead to reunite with his mother and sister, my ultimate hope is that Ryan Pavey's eventual return to General Hospital won't be as the imposter Cassius Faison at all. What if, somewhere in the deepest, darkest, most classified archives of the WSB, the ultimate truth has been buried for years? What if the real Nathan West never actually died? Lulu Spencer deduced that Cassius falling for her proved he wasn't Nathan, because the real Nathan would have prioritized Maxie Jones above all else. If the show were to eventually reveal that Nathan's death was an elaborate cover-up, a secret kept hidden for years while his family, Maxie, and little James mourned a man who was still breathing, it would be the most seismic shock in the history of Port Charles. It would rewrite years of grief, trauma, and history, turning everything we thought we knew upside down. Until that day comes, we are left staring at the shadows, tracing the outlines of ghosts, and waiting for the moment when the truth finally breaks through the surface. The story is far from over, guys. It is only just beginning to breathe in the dark.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.